Hello and welcome back to Burgundy Banter. My name is Juanners.
And I'm John.
We're back with another episode of BB for you. Kind of a quick fire episode, right after the midweek set of games. The Rapids played at home in a little bit of a delay, rain delay on this one, into the at least 2 hours after kick, 9:30 kickoff or 9:41 kickoff if we want to be more precise there. But John, got you on the call for this one. Thanks for joining me. What did you make of this game against the Galaxy? It's a fresh game. It's not even been 24 hours yet, and we're here talking. Well, I guess it has been 24 hours. My bad, but still kind of fresh, I think, just given where the game was at.
Well, it was definitely a good get right game. We have to all the positive put a caveat. It was against the Galaxy, worst team in the league. But if you want to be a good team, you got to beat the bad teams at home. So definitely a good feeling going in there, scoring 2 goals. Could have had more. I thought we were looking much better compared to the last couple of games. So I feel good about it, good feelings. But again, it's against the Galaxy, worst team. So you got to look good against them. So I kind of feel like it's a get right type of game. Hopefully, we found some magic with Calvin Harris starting out there on the wing. Maybe that's something that can get going because we haven't been getting that productive wing play at all this year.
Yeah, and I think what really stood out to me in this one was Sam Vines, because he had first had a great pass to. He set up Georgia Mihailovic on one of the goals, but he had an earlier opportunity to pass it to him, and I was lamenting it on Bluesky. I was tweeting like, I need Sam Vines to lock in. And then
Oh, agree.
surely enough, he locked in, and he got a great pass to Mihailovic for the opener. Again, Mihailovic, if you thought last year he was having a good season, this is him just taking that next step up as just not only a top rapid player, but just being really one of the few players that's really earned their keep as a DP. Like, he's really the only DP that's just been like exactly what you need. Like, he is the model DP going forward. If you're not hitting DPs at the rate you're hitting Georgie, it's just that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back on the Sam Vines, I thought he looked good in the last game, but definitely in this game, he definitely is improving his game. I'm not sure if the injury early on in the year just set him back to where now he can finally be productive. But that partnership on the left between Sam and Teddy was just absolutely amazing. The flow, the way they worked with each other, setting each other up on crosses. Yeah, it was really fun to see Sam Vines like that. Um, Going off of Jordy, what you said, that's just the player you got to build the team around. Everybody that you put on the pitch has to be what can they do to help Georgie win? Because Georgie will put this team on their back, but the other players have to step up too.
Yeah, and this was a game without Cole Bassett, and last year I felt that he was kind of. He was the best player last season. I thought he was very deserving of all the plaudits, especially since he was getting national recognition playing deep, playing as a very good, dynamic deep presence, like a dynamic ball playmaker. And so we haven't seen him in that role. We've seen him again push towards the attacking third. I remember earlier in the season, you were kind of one of the first people to bring up the idea of a 4-2-2. You've seen the Rapids play out of it. You've seen some Cole Bassett in out of there. Is this still a formation you think you want to be seeing? Because what I had said there is it still takes Cole out of his best position, and by and large, it typically has.
Yeah, I mean, Cole's being played out of position, and that's probably why he's not having the offensive production that we are typical of seeing. Not to mention the injuries. He can't even get on the pitch now because of that. The 4-2-2 was built around the idea if you don't have productive wingers, then put, you know, Yappy up there with Navajo, a second striker. Chris Armas wants to play with the wingers. The formation that he's doing now, what is it? The 4-2-3-1 is working. I don't know where you put Cole. I mean, we could talk about Atencio, where I think he's all right, but not if it's pushing Cole Bassett out of position. That's a conversation the staff needs to have of what do you want? Do you want Atencio there or do you want Bassett there? Because I'm not taking Laraz off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a lot more reservations about Atencio. The more I see him, the more I'm less thrilled about the move. Not because not because he's not a good player, but because and it's worked out now, right? Because a team without Josh Atencio right now, right? And who are you looking for off the bench? So he's amazing depth there, and he's very much a starter on this team. But I can't help but feel that he's still like he's not a playmaker, and too many times, especially in this past game, you see runs being made by players, and kind of that next ball you expect. We've seen it from Jack Price, who can lay a nice little dink in ahead to people. There's moments where Navajo makes a run and kind of Atencio goes for the more safe option, and you can kind of see a visible frustration there. So, like, I like Atencio's floor. He has such a steady floor, but he's still like this team is missing kind of he kind of needs a partner outside of Ollie, because they're both kind of just bulldogs in midfield, and so I'm kind of souring on Atencio, but not for Atencio reasons, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think Atencio, his game is more defensive, and he's not a guy that is going to be like a Cole Bassett and push up the field, make those progressive passes to set up other players, and then make late runs to score goals. So having him play out of position takes him out of his element. Like, I don't really like seeing Atencio getting into the attack because that's not where his best game is, and then it leaves our back line exposed when he needs to sit back and just be a defensive cover for the back line.
Yeah, and he's still very good. I just and thank God we have him right now, because otherwise we'd be without we were also without Wayne Frederick, who had to serve that suspension, right? But
Well, he's not an international, right? So he won't even serve that suspension until, well, actually it would have been the Galaxy because
yeah,
Trinidad got yeah, that's right. I forgot the Gold Cup ended on the group stage over the weekend.
yep. I mean, he is back in camp. I mean, available for selection. I'm sure we'll see some minutes out of
Do we
him.
want to?
I do. I do think there's a player in Wayne Frederick still. Even if he's a bit chaotic at
Reckless.
times.
Yeah.
But it depends, right? The situation's got to make sense. If we're down a goal or two and you bring him on, that kind of does say a lot, depending on who he comes on for and the shape that they play. But I mean, this team is gonna always be a lot of their success. A big part of their success is going to be the youth, and if they're not, if you're not playing them, then I don't know, what to say besides like. Are you gonna run Josh and Ollie for another, couple of minutes? I mean, Ronan got some time in there, and I didn't think he looked too bad either.
No, all the subs look good except for he who should not be mentioned, Kevin Cabral. So outside of that, the subs were pretty good. So, you know, I like Atencio going on that, but I don't like him taking Cole Bassett off the field. And, he's not doing it now because Cole's injured, but when Cole comes back, that's just something Chris Armas is going to have to figure out. How do you play Cole Bassett on this team with that many midfielders?
Yeah, or I mean, it's also up to Cole to be healthy too, because last we heard from him, he said that he needed to get his body right. So if it is something where he needs to heal up and come back eventually, a lot better and determined, then that's you can't go wrong with the Tensio right now. It's just something about the game model is not, for me, it's just not clicking when I see Atencio, and his lack of final entry passes.
Right, but that again, that I think that's not his game.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have Ollie doing that and not Atencio. I think Atencio, I want him just staying back, covering the back line. I don't really want him getting involved so much offensively because that's not where he succeeds as a player.
Right. Speaking of succeeding as a player, I know you brought him up earlier. Calvin Harris played on the wing, on the right wing. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he combined really well with Cudi Pietro on that goal there. And this is the second time a winger has assisted Calvin Harris here for the goal. What did you make of his performance?
I thought it was a great performance from him. I mean, he got a goal. We had a winger get a goal, so always going to applaud that. That's a rare sight for a Rapids fan. But I think he showed a lot of pace, a lot of effort out there, was chasing balls, going forward, doing everything that Armas was asking to do. And we really haven't seen somebody on the wing outside of Teddy, but Teddy's only had a few games. So to come in and actually do that, it's kind of refreshing to see two competent wingers out there, him and Teddy playing good wing play. I thought Calvin did an excellent job filling in, and hopefully going forward, we don't have to worry about who's starting on that right, well, or left. I know that Teddy typically was on the right wing, now he was on the left, so it seemed to work out pretty good. I hope they found something going forward.
Yeah, one thing I will say though is, you mentioned it too, is it is the LA Galaxy, and it is a team that has largely kind of been really poor defensively. The Rapids are heading up to New England. We'll talk about that as well. They play out of a back five with a bit more of a tougher defensive unit there, and so I think I like this spot for Calvin Harris, but I want to see it again, and I want to see it against a tougher team in New England. Before we get into that, though, I have to mention one other aspect of the game. We talk about underperforming DPs. If you saw Cabral's very, very poor attempt at a ball earlier, and we can get into a larger discussion about that because I know there's some post-game happenings there. Maybe you might want to talk about it. But before we do, Rafael Navajo has not scored in his last 10 games. What are we making of that? Because
Well,
it is I know he was injured for some of it, but last 10 without a goal, just one assist in 10 games.
I'm a Hoffa defender, so in those last 10 games that he hasn't scored a goal, not a lot of Rapid scored goals either. So the whole team has been pretty bad in those last 10 games. So it's just not on him. He looked much better offensively in this game. He did have that injury, so he did miss a few games in that 10-game stretch. I believe he had 2 goals, but was offside both times. But he does need to start picking up the pace. If we're going to have a DP making that kind of money, he's got to be a 15, 16, 17 goal scorer. So part of it is he's not getting the service. Part of it is he's not creating for himself. Although I don't know if he's the type of player who can create for himself, but everything else that he does off the ball is amazing. I think he's a really good hard worker. He wins the ball back. He presses really well. He pulls defenders away. So yeah, he's not getting the goals, but he's doing other things that may not show up on a striker's FOT mob or ratings or however you want to put it, that he does very well. I would give it the end of July if he doesn't have at least a couple goals. We might have to be sitting here wondering, is this really the guy going forward?
I am, you know me, I am not wondering that at all. I have a clear answer about that. But I just bring it up because I think it's a symptom of the larger system, right? If the team is pressing well and if the whole team can play into a game state where they are allowed to press, then Navajo is exactly the kind of guy you want. But in possession, when the team has the ball, when the team is the protagonist, when they are called upon to create and called upon to score a goal, like I know you said the rest of the team wasn't scoring, but I mean Hoffa's the third highest paid player on the team, right? So like the goal scoring kind of falls on him. I mean, Georgie's been stepping up, and we always bring up the void that is Kevin Cabral because he is the highest paid player on the Rapids. Even if I think half of it's still being paid by the Galaxy. I mean, it's still very much indicative of the higher earners here, right? And I guess we can kind of. I mean, do you have any other thoughts on the game? Do we want to talk about the Cabral post match?
Yeah,
Because my larger point about Navajo there is just 10 games without a goal. Like, if that's not sounding off some alarm bells as to him as the DP, it really should.
I agree. There's definitely some alarm bells, but I also want to go back to if Calvin Harris can show consistency and be a productive winger and help set up goals for Navajo, and now that you have Teddy, who really I think it's only been 2-3 months that he's been on the club starting, and he's looking really good getting the ball in there. If those two players on the wing with Jordy can start setting up Hoffa, I think Hoffa could go off and start getting a lot of goals that we expect a striker to. So I understand the alarm bells. I kind of agree with it on there, but I want to be a little bit more patient before I want to hit the panic button on that.
That's valid. You want to get into the post game here with Cabral?
Oh yeah, Kevin Cabral. So it was even before the post game. This guy is lazy. He does not make the runs. He does not do anything for himself to get open. I forgot what minute it was, but Jordy was coming down on the left side. He's running down. He wants Kevin Cabral to make the overlapping run, and Kevin's just standing there. And then you see Jordy just start yelling at Kevin Cabral, and Kevin Cabral is like trying to dismiss it, like, "What are you talking about?" And well, you're standing there, you're not doing anything. And then post match, when we're sitting in C38, and I don't know why Kevin Cabral does this. He's always the first player to go to C38 to start clapping the fans when he's probably the most hated by the fans. But during this game, there was a staff member. I don't know if he was a coaching staff member or who, but he was barking at Kevin, and Kevin was pushing him away as he was trying to clap to the fans. It was a very odd moment that you would have players and staff members really getting into Kevin Cabral's ear about his performance and lack of effort and laziness.
Yeah, and it's tough because these are some of the things that don't pop up on a scouting report, you know. But if you were watching the league, if you were seeing kind of the player that he was, I mean, this is like, you know, this is everything that we thought it would be of a Kevin Cabral, time in Burgundy, and it sucks because we try and be a spot for players for them to kind of reignite maybe part of their career, maybe get some positive regression going on. But when it fails like this, just completely on its face, it's so hard not to just point to the larger glaring issues about the front office and just this kind of this just poor decision, this poor contract. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were promised as fans that we'd get out of bad contracts, and it feels like every year there's at least one problem spot on the roster, on the salary page that just limits this team from really being a top contender on positions that you can't afford to miss if you're going to be a team like the Rapids and not consistently spend and not pour money into the facilities. And man, it's just a very that's so Rapid signing, right? Especially when I felt like a lot of fans were, and there's a lot of fans that were dogging it from the beginning, but I felt like there was some group of fans that were like, maybe, and this hasn't been that way at all.
No, it really hasn't. He had that 2 month spell last year, right before he got injured, where it looked like there was something there. He was starting to turn the corner. And ever since he came back from that injury, he's just been a disappointment. And it really just comes down to effort. And I don't know if you listened to the post game interview from Jordy. I don't know if it was post game or if it was like a midweek. He did an interview after the Orlando game where he talked
Yep,
about
I remember this.
how yeah, all the players, everybody needs to put forth the effort. Everybody needs to care about what they're doing. They have to go out and compete and give 100%. And it just makes you wonder, like, was he directing that at a certain player? And if it was it Kevin Cabral? Because in this game, Connor Ronan sent him a ball all the way across the field, and he was just walking towards it, and the ball goes out of bounds, and we lose possession. It's just plays like that. Just I don't even want him to go on the plane to New England. I don't even want him to be dressed. Like, if you're not going to wear the badge, then don't play for the badge. Like it. Why are we not seeing Konami Stuart Baines playing? Like, I'd rather see him off the bench than Kevin Cabral.
Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to that one and the curious case of Kevin Cabral. Another fun one to look back on. Ain't that right?
We're
Uh,
signing in club history.
yeah. Look, I mean, there's a laundry list of them, and it's
I'm sure Maxwell has a good list that he can point to and say maybe this one was worse than Kevin Cabral, but on a $2 million contract though, I don't know how you can get worse than that.
definitely the biggest waste of resources on a player so far. But let's talk into the contract specifics, right? Because there are some. It does feel like there's less mid-level players, if that makes sense. Players in that because after there's like a sub 500K and a post 500K, but like the median here is just kind of getting, it's very much very much indicative of the Rapids right now. Any salary notes that you're seeing? Any immediate ones that you wanted to raise?
The back line there's a lot of money in that back line. So looking at how many goals we have conceded this year, it's kind of concerning that we're spending that much money and we are not a top defensive team in the league. So there is some curious choices here on these contracts, and I'm just wondering, is Colorado not a good destination to where I think you said that with Jim, right? Like why is it so hard to get players here? Do you have to pay extra just to get better talent? Because some of these contracts just I don't know. The money that we're paying for Maxu, the money we're paying even for Zach Steffen, $1 million for a goalkeeper is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I had been pointing to that because despite the fact that it wasn't going to the Stefan signing was never going to be a big transfer fee, but it was always going to be a big contract. And now, where's you look at Nico Hansen, $80K. Like this dude's making a tenth, and we didn't even talk about him, but he had an amazing match.
Oh
And
yeah, he was man of the match for me.
and I thought outside of his, I mean, Paintsill like never looked like he got a bunch of shots on target, never looked like he was going to score on him. Hansen, just a calm presence on the back line. And I mean, imagine if they had more players just kind of towards this bottom half of the salary, like Hansen, on an 80,000 contract. At that point, why wouldn't you want to have $1 million to go get a winger, right? Or even $2 million
Yeah.
if you get rid of one of Maxo or I mean even Vines at 900K. Like there was a minute where Jackson Travis was getting a bunch of starts, and it's like it works if you're not overspending on the position elsewhere. But I mean, it's hard not to see the Rapids as spending and kind of, laugh at it a little bit because
it's a weird roster build. It's definitely concerning when you see the big contracts. And I'm not saying Zach Steffen's had a bad year, but $1 million for an MLS goalkeeper is absurd. Maxu's not worth that money. Chito Awazium, I don't even know if he's worth that much money. That's a
yeah,
lot
that's
of
a
money for
lot.
a center back. $1.4 million, and I don't know if he's really worth that, to be honest with you. That again, it comes back to as a unit, they're leaking goals. I do want to point out Sam Vines. He's making 900,000. If Sam Vine how he played against the Galaxy, if he plays like that every single game, that's a fine dollar for that. If you can get a left back that can play like that every game, that's a good contract.
Now, one
Yeah, looking at
thing, yeah, and
oh, go ahead.
one thing you noticed here earlier is about Sam Vines at 900K. Do you think he's like, how are we feeling about him at that such a high price there?
If he plays like he played against the Galaxy for the rest of the year, I would say that's a decent contract. He doesn't have to get assist every game, but if he's getting assist every other game, getting a couple goals, playing like that, that's a good contract in my opinion.
Let's look at some of the other ones here. Ollie Larraz, 125, very solid for what you get out of him. Frederick, Travis, Beaudry, Yappy, and Bryce Jamison, all making 104, kind of lower end reserve talent, almost depth talent, and especially Yappy, getting a bit more worth out of him.
And then we have Ali Fadal, the new signing that we haven't seen due to injury. He's only making 80,000.
Yeah, that guy I always felt was a project player. Like he is. I didn't think we'd see. I mean, if we saw him, it'd be on decision day at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm just surprised on the contract amount. I thought there was a possibility may be making maybe 3 times that when we got him over here. So I thought that was interesting that he's at the bare minimum.
Some of the mid-level players are kind of more of your depth pieces. Some starters in here. Josh Atencio at 350, really good there. I know he's a U22 player, so not all of that hits against the cap. But I figured if you're gonna, I figured he'd be a bit higher than that, honestly, just given, the U22 rule. Cudi Petro, 400. Murphy, 400. Rosenberry, 400. I think that's kind of around where he was last time. I think he might have taken a pay cut, but he did sign a new deal, so maybe it was kind of, just for more security there. Ronan, 490K, and then from there, that's the last sub 500. After that, it goes to Reggie Cannon at 750, so it's like a big jump there. You don't have anyone earning really towards the middle of the salary cap there. Anything else noteworthy about the salaries here that you wanted to touch on?
Not too much. I think you covered all of it. It's an interesting roster build considering where the money's going. We can speculate all we want of how we can make that better, but it's definitely interesting where we're spending the money and the lack of production on some of those contracts are.
It definitely feels bloated, if anything.
Definitely bloated.
Beyond that, though, let's talk about the next match. Rapids are set to face New England Revolution on the road. Historically, not the best place for the Rapids to play at. New England Revolution are slowly getting back to full fitness. Leonardo Campana is off the injury report. He is very likely to start in this next match. But New England started off really rough. They started playing out of a 4-2-3-1. It didn't work out. And then Caleb Porter made one small change. He added in Tanner Beeson in at center back. Switched to a back three. So they're playing out of a 5-3-2 with Carlos Gill playing more as a 10. And this is the guy. Again, some things never change. Carlos Gill is having a fantastic season underneath two strikers and Chankalai and Campana. So this is going to be a test for the defense. And I think, the Rapids have typically done well on the road. I don't see why Georgie and this same contingent of Georgie, Cudi Harris, and hopefully Navajo, who hasn't scored in 10, can at least kind of, have an early say. Because I think that early goal will be easier for the Rapids to play into. It's their MO. Get an early goal and invite the team to play possession ball in your half, and then that's when you can really press and win, these one-on-one chances that they so crave. But got to get that early goal. What do you make of this one so far? And what are you thinking in terms of game state?
Yeah, I don't know too much about New England being an Eastern Conference. I don't really get to see many of their games. I am familiar with some of their players, like you said, Gill, and I think you said Cabana is back. He's a pretty dangerous player, so and we'll see what happens with that. If he's game ready and he can attack us pretty good. I don't know what to think of this game, to be honest with you. New England, I'm looking up here, they've only won 2 games at home. They kind of have a bad home form, so don't know if that's really going to mean anything for us. But this is a game where it's Eastern Conference, so if you lose, it's not like it's a team above you in the Western Conference standings. So you want to go out there and follow up what you did against the Galaxy, though, to show consistency and that you're moving in the right direction. If they can come out here and have a positive result, even if it's a point, but they're attacking, they're winning the ball back, they're not giving up dumb goals at the end of the half, and show that we're getting better, I think that's a win for us.
Okay. I think this is a good one for the Rapids. And with all of the notion of what you said of it being an Eastern Conference match, a loss doesn't hurt the Rapids in the standings. Right now, the Rapids are in 9th place. They're 4 points clear of FC Dallas, who are utterly atrocious. But between Seattle and Austin, they'll play a match tomorrow. If either of them get a draw and the Rapids get a win, I mean, you could easily see the Rapids, climb up into 7th at the very minimum here. So I mean, a win does a lot for the Rapids team here. A draw keeps you, on pace. And a loss is what it is, but. It's not hurt if it's like Dallas, who that'd be a big 6-point game, right?
Right. And that's how I'm feeling about it. It's,
more of a 2-pointer, if anything.
right. That's what I'm saying is if you lose, it doesn't hurt you in the standings as much as it was if of Western Conference. I just want to see them make positive steps forward, individually and as a team. It'd be great to see a Hoffa goal. It'd be great to see Calvin Harris follow up a good performance so we can see good consistency there. That's what I'm looking more for is how is this team going to follow up a good win going on the road to an Eastern Conference team? Because that's a long travel day on short rest.
Yeah. And despite New England having a very poor home record, they have conceded only 8 goals at home. So this is going to be a close one. It's not. I don't think it's going to be as open. And if it's a match where this team is just locked in, just 2 bullhorns going at it, and I think overall, like, the Rapids have that quality to break through. Right? It's just you got to make sure you limit Gill. Because that dude is a wizard, and that dude's the type of player that makes the Rapids pay, like, every single time. So, any score predictions from you before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go 1-1
Okay,
for the culture right there. Give me a Hoffa goal.
1-1 with a Hoffa goal. I'm gonna say 1-0, and I'm gonna give this. I think the lone scorer here is Teddy. Teddy with his first goal, because I know he got the assist. He wasn't as willing to shoot at the goal, I don't think. Maybe just a little bit of selfishness is what he needs to get his first, and maybe he gets a selfish one here.
Yeah, I wonder how well he played against New England when he was with DC all those years. I wonder if he has an inside track against them.
Maybe like some good goal scoring for him.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to look at that history. You may already know that. That's why you're picking Teddy.
I don't. I wish I could. I mean, it's not like I'm the channels of my brain don't fine tune to specific New England DC games, but
Yeah, we'll have to look up Teddy's games against New England as a DC player.
I feel like that is definitely a highlight out there though, because New England are just kind of they've been more poor than they've been this electric team. So if there's any team like if the Rapids were coming up against Cincinnati or like a Columbus, then you're kind of like thinking, oh fuck, this is gonna be a tough one. But this really is like kind of a heads up, like, and I take. Like I'm ready to be disappointed, but I'm also expecting like just a little bit of magic from the Rapids here.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. Something positive, showing that we're in the right direction. It would be good for the fans to see that whatever was happening the last 5 games was past us.
We'll see. We shall see. Let's get heads up, right? Heads up matchup. You can find me at Juanners715 on Twitter, at Juanners.Bsky.Social. Follow Box State Footy on all platforms. Best way to do that is to just go to boxstatefooty.com and there'll be all the links there for you to follow. Substack, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Bluesky, all of it's up there. And that'll be it from us. You guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see ya when we see ya. Bye-bye.